Jeff, I just want to start with one thing that Trump said here, among others, but this one really stood out to me. He says he doesn't watch the markets. That would be a first if it's the case.
I mean, Aaron, skeptical eye rolls, even from the president's advisors and admirers over those 7 words, I don't even watch the market. But the market is watching the White House, and the uncertainty that has been here at the White House really over the last several days over this threat of a trade war, an actual trade war, a reversal of a trade war, all left to what is next. And the president, again, in the Oval Office today, said he is not going to make exemptions for the April 2nd round of reciprocal tariffs. That, of course, is an open question because he has made exemptions when the automakers came calling. He made exceptions again today when the president of Mexico said that they are cracking down on fentanyl. And she showed him some data that just showed that fentanyl production was down. So, look, the bottom line to all of this, you can just see the competing advice coming from advisors. Peter Navarro, for example, the top trade expert here, has been really leaning into these tariffs. Howard Lutnick, the Commerce Secretary, has been sending signals to the market that the president is going to change his mind hours before he does so. But the market clearly has been rattled by this. So the question is what comes next in all of this. There's a lot of concern on Capitol Hill from Republican lawmakers and others. Yes, they still deeply support this president. He has a big control of the House and Senate, there's no doubt. But the markets are one thing he has always loved and watched. The markets are giving their thoughts to the president, and it certainly is not an A+ grade, Aaron.
Certainly not at this moment. All right. Thank you very much, Jeff Zeleny. Jared Bernstein is chair of President Biden's Council of Economic Advisors, and former Republican Governor Mark Sanford, also a former congressman and served on the Budget Committee. So I appreciate both of you very much. Governor, can I start with you? You see the markets responding. You know, there was a day, actually there was a day a month ago when the president said he's going to do tariffs, and then when he backed down, then the markets go back up. But that wasn't the case now, right? There's been this kind of whiplash of I'm going to, I'm not going to, I'm going to, maybe one too many times. What do you think the effect of this on again, off again trade war is going to be? Governor, can you hear me?
Oh, I thought you said Jared. I apologize.
No, sorry.
What do I think the effect's going to be? I think it's going to be disastrous. You know, people go down to the local bank because it sends signals that there's stability there. And what the president right now is doing both domestically and internationally is sending a signal that there is not stability. And people don't invest into instability. It's the reason that a lot of money doesn't pour into third world countries because they have no idea what's going to happen next. And if that's the operating environment that businesses have to look at, they're going to put the brakes on. And you're not going to see the domestic investment that he's talked about, and you're not going to see the jobs he's talked about, and you are going to see inflation. So I'm quite worried, and I think the markets obviously are too.
And Jared, that you have one chart that actually speaks to exactly what the governor just said, the uncertainty index.
Yeah, the governor is spot on. If you look at the spikes in that chart, it's a chart of uncertainty caused by trade policy that lurches the way we've seen. And markets and investors really don't like that. As you said, the market, the Dow, is down 1,500 points this week. Today, the NASDAQ down 5% over the week, as you said, in correction territory. I think the one reliable force that can protect American consumers from the price increasing impact of these harmful tariffs on Canada and Mexico is, in fact, the stock market. The president doth protest too much when he says otherwise. We know the record on that. Yeah. I also, though, think we should be clear, as Jeff was, that the call with President Sheinbaum and the progress they've made on fentanyl, that's good news. But the markets are the dominant force here.
So, Governor, I'm also curious, you know, you got to layer in this, what we saw on jobs. Now, you have a more than doubling in the number of layoffs this February from last February. And overall, the biggest number of job losses on a month-to-month basis since COVID in 2020. I mean, when you layer that in here, that is very, you talk about unsettling or destabilizing, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, again, I go back to very simple principles, which is investments go to where they're loved and where they have a sense of what's coming next. And in as much as people don't, they're not going to add, small business. I think we'll hold off on hiring that extra person. And cumulatively, that really begins to add up. More worrisome, though, I think, is the inflation component, which I think could really, you talk about something that would bite the Republican Party in the midterms. Oh, my goodness. Think about this. Half of the fresh produce that you see in grocery stores across the country in the wintertime comes from Mexico. A quarter of the lumber supply that goes into the houses that are being built comes from Canada. You begin to put walls up to our immediate borders, and a lot of bad things begin to happen from the standpoint of inflation, which is the flip side of what will hurt people. They can lose their job, or they can see prices go crazy. Either way, they get hurt, and I think there'll be a political consequence.
Jared, what do you think about the fact that it's being called by Trump called it a little disturbance? You heard Bessent, you heard Markwayne Mullin. Yeah. And look, I'm not trying to mock them specifically. I'm merely pointing out when money isn't an issue for you, it is hard to see how a price increase that is massive for many is so significant. You heard Bessent say, cheap goods is not the essence of the American dream. Many may beg to disagree on that fundamental point. But what do you think about the fact that this is how they're saying, well, it's just a little bit of price for now?
Yeah, look, the governor is the politician here, but let me offer a little free political advice, and I suspect he would agree with it. If you're a millionaire, especially if you're a billionaire, you should never tell people not to worry about higher prices. All right, that should just be something that's kind of etched on everything you think about. We know that the American consumer has been dealing with this problem, this challenge, these pressures for a while. And when I was in the Biden administration, we were doing what we could to help cut costs. We can argue about how far we got, but we certainly never thought about doing anything that would raise costs. And here we've talked about they're on pause for now, but they're on pause for only a month. We're talking about tariffs that could raise the price of a vehicle by between $3,500 and $9,000. You're talking about avocados, which still probably will be tariffed. That's the White House was unclear about that today, adding 50 cents per item there. The price of gas, I've seen estimates could go up 20 cents per gallon. That's real money for real people. And if you're a millionaire or a billionaire and you're dismissing that, you're making a big mistake. And frankly, you're insulting people.
Governor, what do you think? Access to cheap goods, not the essence of the American dream. We're going to have to adjust some prices for it. What we were hearing today from some close to Trump.
If that was the case, Walmart would not have grown as it did out of Arkansas. In fact, it became a phenomenon. Again, some dislocation, in fairness, in the process, some small businesses that were hurt. But it was a phenomenon because people did indeed want cheaper goods. Everybody's struggling to make it. Not the millionaires and billionaires, to Jared's point, but most folks are out there struggling to make it. And if they could save a little bit at home, they want to do so. I think the administration is playing with real fire here. You look at what happened in the 1930s with Smoot-Hawley tariffs. World trade imploded by 2/3 during that time period. If you set off the match that lights a trade war, again, there will be hell to pay politically, and there'll be real consequences in people's lives.
And there are consequences on war and peace, perhaps, too, as in that historical time frame. Governor Jared, thank you both very much. I appreciate it. And, Trump has repeatedly claimed that Putin wants peace. But the Kremlin gave some extremely revealing comments today that show the opposite. Plus, Trump's next target. Wired reporting tonight that the administration is looking at potentially cutting experts at the Pentagon, whose job it is to stop the spread of chemical, biological, and nuclear weapons. And he called his former party